Frane Selak was a simple music teacher. He liked quiet mornings, his students, and the steady rhythm of a normal life. But the universe had other plans for him. To the Grim Reaper, Frane wasn't just a target. He was the one that kept getting away. In 1962, he was on a train that derailed into a freezing river. 17 people died. Frane swam to shore. In 1963, he was sucked out of a plane door at 2,000 feet. 19 people died. Frane woke up in a haystack. By the time he was 70 years old, he had survived 7 certain deaths. His friends stopped visiting him. His neighbors called him a walking omen. They said he was cursed. But then, in 2003, the universe decided to apologize. This is the impossible story of Frane Selak, the man who was too lucky to live and too unlucky to die. It's January in the Balkans, the kind of cold that bites through wool coats and settles in your bones. Frane Selak is sitting in a crowded carriage, watching the snow-covered mountains of Croatia pass by. Without warning, the world flips upside down. A freak derailment sends the entire train careening off the tracks. It doesn't just crash. It plunges straight into the icy black waters of the Neretva River. Panic is instant. The water is paralyzing. As the carriages sink into the depths, 17 passengers are trapped, unable to escape the freezing metal tomb. But Frane, somehow, he finds a pocket of air. He kicks through a shattered window and swims through the ice. He reaches the bank with a broken arm and hypothermia so severe his skin is blue, but he is breathing. He is the outlier. Most people would never touch a train again. Frane? He decided to try the sky. He gets word that his mother is ill. To save time, he books his first ever flight. He's nervous, but the flight is smooth. The cabin crew is serving drinks. Everything is normal. Until it isn't. A malfunction causes the plane's rear door to blow off at 2,000 feet. The cabin depressurizes instantly. In a terrifying blur of screaming and flying debris, 19 people are sucked out into the void. Frane is one of them. He's falling. No parachute. No hope. This should be the end of the script. But as Frane plummeted toward the earth, he didn't hit the jagged rocks or the frozen ground. He woke up in a hospital 3 days later. He had landed in a massive, experimental haystack on a local farm. He had a few bruises. The other 19 passengers? They were found in the wreckage miles away. Twice in 2 years, Frane had walked away from mass casualty events. At this point, the people in his village stopped calling him lucky. They started looking at him with a different expression. Fear. Because if death was constantly missing Frane, who was it hitting instead? By 1966, Frane had survived the water and the air. He decided to stick to the road. After all, How much could go wrong on a bus? The answer? Everything. On a slick mountain pass, his bus skidded, smashed through a guardrail, and tumbled into a valley. 4 passengers were killed instantly. Frane? He walked away with a few cuts and a bruised ego. At this point, Frane stopped taking public transport. He bought his own car. He thought he was finally in control. He was wrong. In 1970, while driving down a highway, his engine caught fire. In a scene straight out of a Hollywood thriller, Frane jumped from the moving vehicle just seconds before the fuel tank exploded into a fireball. 3 years later, it happened again. A faulty fuel pump leaked oil onto his hot engine. This time, flames shot through the air vents, singeing his hair off. But once again, he escaped. By now, the mystery of Frane Selak had become a local legend, but not the kind you want. People began to notice a pattern. If you were near Frane, you were in danger. He was called the world's unluckiest man. Friends stopped inviting him to dinner. He spent the next 20 years in a self-imposed exile, trying to stay off the radar of a universe that clearly wanted him dead. He was 67 years old when death came for him one last time. He was driving on a narrow mountain curve when a United Nations truck rounded the corner, heading straight for him. Frane swerved. His car smashed through the guardrail and hung over a 300-foot drop. In an impossible feat of reflexes, Frane leaped from the car and grabbed onto a tree branch growing out of the cliffside. He hung there, suspended in the dark, watching as his car plummeted into the abyss and exploded on the rocks below. The Reaper had missed again. But the universe was done throwing fire and steel at Frane Selak. It was time for a different kind of explosion, one that would change his life forever. By 2003, Frane Selak was 73 years old. He had survived the water, the air, and the fire. He had lived through 7 disasters that should have ended him. He was a man who had spent his entire life looking over his shoulder, waiting for the next piano to fall from the sky. To celebrate his 5th marriage and a life he never expected to still be living, Frane did something he almost never did. He bought a lottery ticket. The odds of surviving a plane crash without a parachute, millions to 1. The odds of surviving 7 separate fatal accidents, trillions to 1. But the odds of winning the Croatian lottery? Frane Selak, the world's most cursed man, had just hit the jackpot. He bought a luxury home. He bought a private island. He bought a speedboat. For the first time in his life, he didn't have to worry about how he was going to survive the day. But as the luckiest man in the world sat in his mansion, he realized something that no amount of money could fix. He realized that his luck had nothing to do with money. It was the fact that he was still here to breathe the air. In a final twist that shocked the public, Frane gave it all away. He sold the island, gave the millions to his family and friends, and moved back to a modest home in Petrinja. He kept only enough for a hip operation and to enjoy his days with his wife. He told reporters, "Money cannot buy happiness. I have lived through enough to know that being alive is the only prize I ever needed." For 40 years, Frane Selak lived in a state of high-stakes gambling with the universe. Every time he stepped outside, the house tried to win. But in 2016, at the age of 87, the game finally ended.